Hi, my name is Tim Howell. I'm the Clinical Education Coordinator for the St. Louis University Athletic Training Program. I would like to thank you for your willingness to serve as a preceptor in our program. This video is to help inform you of the CATIE standards as well as provide you some of the perspectives and insights from athletic training students currently in the program. Hopefully this information will be of benefit to you as you begin your quest of being a preceptor for the St. Louis University Athletic Training Program. Hopefully you are excited and encouraged to be a preceptor in our program. One of the most important responsibilities that a preceptor has within our program is to be able to provide direct supervision for athletic training students. Direct supervision means that you have the ability to intervene on behalf of either the athlete or the athletic training student.
It's very important to me that my clinical instructor creates a fun working environment that promotes daily learning, and they're also approachable and available to answer any questions that I may have.
I think it is important that our clinical preceptors are approachable in the sense that they enjoy being mentors for us that will help us develop as professionals.
For this section, I'd like to take a little bit of time to talk about the various documentation requirements that the CATIE mandates for all clinical sites. Some of those mandates include emergency action plans. You must have an emergency action plan that is practiced with the student prior to them participating in patient care. You must have an emergency action plan for each venue, practice, and competition that your site utilizes on a regular basis. So in addition to the emergency action plans, there's also the need to maintain an emergency action plan table. The emergency action plan table is a document provided by the CATIE that actually lists all of your venues as well as the access point that the student would have to the emergency action plan. Moving on from emergency action plans, there's also the need to document calibration records for all of the clinical modalities at your site. Basically, those modalities must be calibrated according to the manufacturer's guidelines. Those records must be released to the program, to the clinical education coordinator, so they can be actually kept in the file, an electronic file for each clinical site.
My preceptor constantly encourages me to take the lead when working with athletes. It's so beneficial knowing that he's right there with me if I'm faced with a situation I may not be comfortable in.
They inform us about recent techniques such as Graston and kinesiotaping. They attend student presentations and projects when we present them on campus and help us to address clinical questions that we might have that come up during our clinical practice.
As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, as a preceptor, I hope you're excited about this opportunity because it's a unique opportunity to see athletic training students' skills, knowledge, and abilities grow on an almost daily basis. My ideal preceptor would be someone who could actually just put their hands in their pockets and let an athletic training student demonstrate their skills. You, as a certified athletic trainer, already possess the credential that this athletic training student is aspiring to achieve. Hopefully, you can be confident enough to let the student actually demonstrate those skills. If they're not demonstrating the skills correctly, well, there's a way to mediate that. I would like to propose the 5-minute preceptor model. In the 5-minute preceptor model, what you do is you actually have the athletic training student take a stand, whether it be on an evaluation technique or a rehab technique, and basically that's the first step, is to take a stand. The second step is to actually have the athletic training student provide justification for that decision. The third piece of the 5-minute model is that you actually, as a preceptor who has more experience than an athletic training student, provide insight or a general rule that applies to the certain case or the condition that you're treating. The fourth piece is to remediate any of the information that the athletic training student did or a technique that they did incorrectly. And lastly, stress the good pieces of what they did. Give them some positive reinforcement for the things that they did correct. Again, hoping that the next time the athletic training student is put in the same position, they'll actually apply some of the information that you just shared with them, ultimately to enhance their clinical practice.
While at the site, I'm able to make mistakes that I couldn't make when practicing alone. Their feedback allows me to correct these mistakes and to better myself as an athletic trainer.
Feedback always is welcome in my opinion. Whether it's positive feedback or negative feedback, either way, I mean, I'm trying to learn as a student. I'm interested in engaging with athletes. I'm interested in learning new techniques. So anytime my preceptor has anything to say, I'm always listening, always taking notes mentally, and trying to become better.
With having a PY2 as a PY1, I am able to have a constant source of information that I can ask questions to that helps me better my skills as a student.
Being a PY1, having a PY2 was just absolutely incredibly beneficial for me. You know, I was nervous, I didn't really know what to get into, my first clinical rotation, and my PY2 at that time really helped me, you know, get comfortable. I could bounce ideas off of her, and I mean, she was just an absolute joy to work with, just great help as well. So it was almost like having a second preceptor. Being a PY2, having PY1 students has been great as well because they're bouncing or they're asking me certain things. I'm helping them out. Having a leadership role among them is great. You know, it helps me grow as a professional, and it's also fun watching them grow in their own professional careers too.
Being a PY2 that explains competencies to PY1s helps me to further examine these competencies and better myself.
As a preceptor, there are multiple reasons why an athletic training student could be assigned to you. Perhaps they're assigned to you because you work with team sports. Perhaps they're assigned to you because you work with equipment-intensive sports. Perhaps because you have a male or a female population of athlete. Or perhaps you're working in a gen med setting. All of those are different classifications of experiences for athletic training students. Regardless of the setting, and regardless of the patient population, the real reason that athletic training students are assigned to you is so they can actually practice their athletic training skills on real live patients. Hopefully, you will allow an athletic training student to demonstrate their skills, abilities, and knowledge to the best of their abilities on those patients. Again, as a preceptor, you're going to provide direct supervision so you have the ability to intervene on behalf of the athlete and the athletic training student. But hopefully, you'll let the athletic training student really practice their skills.
My ideal learning situation is hands-on and having my clinical preceptor include me in day-to-day decisions regarding injury prevention, rehabilitation, and injury evaluation.
My ideal learning setup for a clinical site would be a preceptor that has a PY1 as well as a PY2. That way the PY2 can learn by teaching the PY1 as well as review content from their first year, and the PY1 gains valuable learning experience from someone else in the program.
An environment where my preceptor challenges me to think critically about current procedures, why I'm doing them, and being able to explain them to the patient or the athlete, and also being open to new procedures or treatments.
In order for an athletic training student to participate in a clinical experience, whether it be as part of a clinical practicum class or as part of an internship, they must be assigned to an academic course. Our courses here at St. Louis University are MAT 570, MAT 575, MAT 590, MAT 595, and MAT 590 is a clinical internship. Each of those courses has a different hour requirement. Those hour requirements for our fall courses are as follows. If a student is taking MAT 570 or 595, they are actually required to put in a minimum of 250 hours at the clinical site. They have a maximum requirement of 400 hours. In the spring, the hour requirements drop down to 200 hours and still cap out at 400. If as a preceptor, when you see the student's syllabus and you determine that the hour requirement is too high or too low, please contact the clinical education coordinator immediately so that a modification can be made for that student. In terms of the summer internship, MAT 590, so if you have a student between the months of May and August, the student is only required to put in 120 hours. One additional comment to make about hours is that for every 7-day period, a student is required to get at least 1 day off. So what that means is you need to establish a schedule and make sure that a student gets at least 1 day off per week.
Structure at clinical sites is very important. Having designated days that you're going just makes it easier for you as a student who's trying to balance out not only your schoolwork, any other recreational activities you like to do, plus your clinical schedule.
Balancing time spent to your clinicals and schoolwork is very important while being an athletic training student, and one thing that helps make this a lot less stressful is your clinical preceptor providing you with a clear schedule of what's going on each day to help you manage your time more efficiently.
Athletic training does not always have a set schedule, so communication plays a major role in ensuring that me and my clinical preceptor are always on the same page and that we work effectively together.
As a preceptor, there are multiple attributes that you bring to the education of our athletic training students. Your personality, your experience, your setting, your work environment, the various sports that you have. There are a variety of reasons that you've been chosen to be a preceptor. Hopefully, you see this experience as an opportunity to give back to a great profession. The only way our profession gets better is for us to continue to churn out outstanding athletic training professionals. I want to thank you for your time today and for listening to the students' perspectives. Hopefully, as you hear from the students and they tell you what they look for in an experience and what they look for in a preceptor, hopefully you can see yourself fitting into our mold and into our model. So I want to thank you very much for your time and for your participation in this video project. Thank you.